that she watched you return fire after you were shot. So how do you respond to that allegation?
Well, ma'am, I have that same question you asked me, it riddled my mind for months back here, because the only reason I was shot, because I jumped in front of two older ladies for them not to be shot. And for as her saying I returned fire, when the first bullet hit my hip, it broke my pelvic bone. So I blacked out. A police officer woke me up from blacked out because he thought I died.
And anyone familiar with this channel and Louisiana parole revocation hearings would know that this man has got a mountain to climb, being charged with the mass shooting that took place in Louisiana last year in 2024, where 9 people were shot, and now facing the revocation board after the prosecutors decided to drop the charges. But look, we all know, again, with Louisiana revocation hearings, that just because the prosecutors drop the charges does not mean that the revocation board won't revoke. As a matter of fact, we recently covered a hearing where the person up for revocation had already been found unanimously not guilty by a jury. But the parole board said, whoa, 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 whoa. We are not drinking the Kool-Aid that your jury drank. We see that the DNA matched. We know that there's a 1 in 6 quadrillion bajillion chance that you are the one who perpetrated the crime. So we are going to find you guilty, even if the jury didn't. If you haven't seen that hearing, I'll leave a link to it in the description. That was a wild one. But for now, let's see if he can climb out of this hole. Lucky for him, he's got an attorney. So with that, let's jump in.
So I'm going to read out the allegations against you, and I'm going to need for you to enter a plea of guilty, not guilty, guilty with a statement. Okay. So, Mr. Harris, you have been charged with violating condition number 4 of your parole, and that on or about 11/17/2024, you were engaged in criminal activity when you committed the crime of possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, illegal use of weapons and dangerous instrumentalities, and reckless discharge of a firearm at a parade or demonstration, which led to an issuance of an arrest warrant by the New Orleans Police Department 12/7/2024. On 7/22/2025, those charges were null pros, and a continuance was not granted. How do you plead to that?
Not guilty.
Condition number 5, on or about 11/17/2024, you had in your possession a control, or in possession or control firearm or dangerous weapon when you committed the crime of possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. How do you plead to that?
Not guilty.
And number 10, you failed to pay supervision fees in the amount that the department has set, and you are $708 in arrears. How do you plead?
Guilty on the payments.
Okay, so here, let me explain. In our parole revocation packet, we have been given the entire police report and body cam footage from that arrest. Okay, and we'll be discussing that. But before we discuss that, I want to go to your attorney. Mr. Jones, do you have anything you would like to say?
Well, first off, good afternoon. How y'all doing? I'm always anticipating on speaking, I guess, after you all have answers, questions, and stuff like that. But if you want me to talk now, I can. It's up to you all.
We can wait.
There's some more.
Yeah. So we do have your friend who would also like to speak. Miss Tyler.
Think
Yes, Tyler Mattery.
I'm not
Would you
sure.
like to speak on his behalf?
Would I like to speak on his behalf?
Tyler Mattery is listed as someone in support, a friend in support, who wished to speak. It's not on this.
Yeah, maybe they're not. I don't know if they made it in, but
Okay, all right.
Yeah, yeah, that's fine.
Daniel Dickinson. We also show a Daniel Dixon, who's a friend in support but not speaking. Okay, so Mr. Harris, I read all the police reports, saw all the video cam. Your charges were null pros because the victim or the witness could not be located. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Thanks.
Okay. So you were at a parade that day?
I can't hear you say it again, ma'am.
You were at a parade on that day?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And you were shot?
Yes, I was shot multiple times.
Yes. And you were taken by private vehicle to the hospital.
Yes, ma'am.
There was someone lying beside you that had also received injuries.
Had two older ladies, two older female laying beside me.
And a middle-aged person. And one of them indicated, and I have heard the testimony, that she watched you return fire after you were shot. So how do you respond to that allegation?
Well, ma'am, I have that same question you asked me riddled my mind for months back here because the only reason I was shot because I jumped in front of two older ladies for them not to be shot. And for as her saying I returned fire, when the first bullet hit my hip, it broke my pelvis bone. So I blacked out. A police officer woke me up from blacked out because he thought I died. So far as the female saying I returned fire, I don't know how because I went straight to the hospital. And as soon as I make it to the hospital, by me knowing I'm on parole, I give the police officers my arm. I said, check me for gun residue now. Before we go either further with the situation, check me for gun residue because I'm on parole. I told the police I was on parole. So as soon as I made it to the hospital, they checked me for gun residue.
I watched the video of you coming into the hospital, and I didn't see any of that in the video cam. Okay.
Yes,
I saw the officer discuss your injuries, which never did they say you broke your pelvic bone. You were shot in the back end and a leg, and you helped walk into the hospital, ambulated yourself.
No, ma'am. Someone carried me on their shoulder in the hospital, and they put me on the stretcher as soon as I made it in the hospital.
Can I ask a question?
Huh?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
You said you stepped in front of the elderly ladies to keep them from getting shot.
Yes, because they were stuttering. So I'm trying to like move them from the crowd because the crowd was running toward the older ladies, and I moved the older ladies from the crowd. So that's how I was shot. The first shot hit me in my hip. That would broke my pelvis bone. I got hit in my hip twice and in my buttocks once. I broke my pelvis bone and I broke my femur bone.
Was someone shooting at you?
No, sir, I don't know. It was a stampede. I don't know where the shots were coming from, but no one was shooting at me.
Okay, all right.
Okay. So the witness picked you out of a lineup 2 different times with 2 different images. Okay. I watched her pick you out of the lineup. So you've been in since December of 2024, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And this was null crossed in,
I believe it was July 11th.
July. Yeah, July 22nd.
22nd, sorry, I got the numbers wrong.
Okay. You're currently on supervision for a firearm arrest.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a very serious allegation. And I have witness testimony that I have seen. Okay. Do either of my colleagues have any other questions?
Was there a gun produced at the scene?
No, sir.
So you didn't have a gun?
No, sir.
No, I have no question.
Would the attorney please now take this time to address the panel?
Yes, ma'am. So, I mean, I hope you all, I apologize first of all for sending my mitigation packet late to you all. Usually I try to send it a lot earlier, but I was in trial this week. That's not y'all fault. If y'all had a chance to read it, that's great. But a lot of things you need to know about Alex is, first and foremost, like he grows up in New Orleans, Louisiana. Not saying that New Orleans is a bad place because I grew up in the same place, but nonetheless, when he's 24 years old, he pleads to, like you said, a gun violation where he is sentenced to 20 years and he does 6 years in jail, 6 and I think about a quarter. And immediately as he's transferred to the halfway house, he starts to save his money working on a tugboat. He uses his support to assure that he won't be put back in this situation, right? And so what happens is he creates his own trucking company. As I think I attached his LLC. The only thing that says is not like a function LLC is because he hasn't been able to renew his annual fees because he's been incarcerated. But nonetheless, he starts his own LLC, Organized Trucking, where he purchases with his money and help of his family 3 18-wheelers. He purchases those 3 18-wheelers. He hires 2 drivers, and then he enters into school himself to have a commercial license. And while all of this is happening, it's been 2 years, and he literally has the birth of his second son. And if you see in the mitigation packet, what you see is his first son was a stillborn, and that really took a toll on him. And so, like, a little bit about my background was I was a psychology major, and what I learned in my experience, and I know I'm a real young guy, but what I learned is that a lot of times certain traumatic incidences kind of make a switch in people. And that late 2020, early 2021, when he lost his first son, like from talking from Alex, I can tell that it made that switch for him. And from there, he vowed to make sure that he was going to be a present and supportive father for any of the other kids that he had. And he had Alex with 2 exes because he didn't want to not acknowledge his first son, which is a junior. So he's out of jail. It's 2 years while he's been out of jail. And this is not a situation. It's like I understand the pause from you all because he has a gun conviction and you don't want to even hear about him being around guns or being alleged to have had a gun, right? But this isn't a situation where they're alleging like, oh, I saw him do a hand-to-hand transaction, he had a gun on him. Or like, I pulled him over in the car, he has a gun in the car. Or anything to that matter. Like, he's literally, he's a patron of New Orleans, he's a citizen of New Orleans, and he goes to a parade. And if you saw the body cam and maybe even the surveillance footage, is it Miss Day? I caught the last part of it. It's Miss Day on the, with the blue jacket. I'm sorry.
I'm Ms. Ledoux.
Ledoux. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I was trying to write and talk at the same time.
Can't see my.
What you see is that it's like a crowded area, right? And so he's not the only victim in this case. There was 12 other people, well, 11 other people who were shot. One of the young ladies that was next to him and 10 other people that some of them weren't even in the same space as him, right? And so what happens is, as a part of the investigation, is all of them get brought to UMC. He does go by personal conveyance. And then when he gets there, so a lot of times what you see is, if you ever had an officer as a friend, like when they go to UMC, they don't allow them to have a lot of body cam in there. So when they do have body cam in there, it's like an exceptional circumstance. But if you even go and watch his statement, you'll see him tell the detective, like, I told them to check me for gunshot residue because I don't want to be a part of this whatsoever. And they didn't check him for gunshot residue. And so he gets the warrant put out for him after they've run his background, and the officer has no leads. They have no leads on who was the initial person who shoots. And what they do is they say, well, who are they shooting at? Let's look into these backgrounds of these victims and see who they were shooting at. And they come upon Mr. Harris. And when they come upon Mr. Harris, they see his lengthy background, or the background that he has, and they're like, well, maybe they were shooting at him, so let's question him, right? And if you watch his statement, every time I talk to Mr. Harris, it's just kind of the same thing. Like he's very passionate about talking about the fact that he had nothing to do with this, and he did not have a gun. And the truth of the matter is it's not on him to prove that, but in front of you all, obviously, like he's pretty much on his knees telling you all, like, he really did not have a gun, right? And we're in New Orleans, where we try cases every day in and day out. And so when you look at the record that I sent, and the reason why I sent the record as opposed to just saying that it was dismissed, is I wanted you all to see that it was reset multiple times. We waived motions. So usually cases don't go to trial in 7 months. They never go to trial in 7 months. It takes 2-3 years for cases to go to trial because we're so backlogged. We were pushing this trial because of his innocence. And it was reset trial after trial after trial for that same issue. The fact that they could not get this witness to come on the stand and point him out and say that she shot him. And it's indicated when you look at the full police report. Because when you look at the identification procedure, what she says is it's possible that it's him. She says it's possible that it's him if he had dread style hair or like twist style hair. And if you're able to see, so anytime you do a 6-pack lineup, what they do is they say, okay, pick the person. When you pick the person, I want you to tell me, like, in your words, how do you identify this person? She says, it's possible. She says, it's possible that it's him if he had dread style hair and stuff like that. And the officer notes that that picture was from an old time, and that this was from, I guess, when the time he would have had those type of twists. But she's also making that, like, you have to test the veracity of her statement. She's making this statement literally when she's saying that she has just been shot, and he is the one who was probably on top of her, covering her up. And so those questions were things that were going to be asked in the trial, and those things were going to be tested in trial to see whether or not a jury would agree. And we couldn't get there. We stayed all day, picked through 2 juries, I think about 50 people, for the state to concede the fact that they can't prove this case against this young man. And I'm not here to say that, oh, don't make a decision based off of the fact that they can't do their job. I'm here to tell you that, like, this man really did not have a firearm. Like, I wasn't there, but every conversation I've ever had with him, that's his statement, and that's what he stands on. And so we're here today asking for your mercy because he was out for 2 years. There was no other violation. It wasn't that he wasn't showing up to his probation officer. It wasn't that they were going to his house and found a gun and smell weed and all that type of stuff. Like, he's trying his best to be a loving and trying father. And he literally, the worst decision he made that day was to go to a parade. And we can penalize him for saying he went to a parade. Maybe he should have just stayed inside or been at work. But I mean, he literally just went to a parade and was one of 12 victims who was shot. And so, and I'm sorry, I know I'm talking for too long. I know that, again, he's picked out of the lineup, but when he's picked out of the lineup, it's a possibility, which is enough for probable cause, right? But then when you get to the court system, the state is held to a higher burden when taking someone's liberty away. And the truth is that their higher burden is beyond a reasonable doubt. And so they knew at the conclusion of us picking that jury that they was not going to meet that, whether they had that young lady or not, to be honest with you. And these are conversations that I've had with the state. And if they wanted, like, think about it, if they didn't have her then, right, they have the power, because they dismissed the case, to reinstitute the case, right? We're in September. That happened in July. There's August. And now we're in September. They have all the resources in the world to find that young lady and try this case. But because of whatever reason, I would say because they know, one, that she probably doesn't want to participate because they reset it 3 different times. And 2, that even if she gets on the stand, her credibility still has to stand intact. Not saying she has a reason to lie whatsoever, but think about it. When you're in a traumatic incident, like, a lot of things that happen. And I'm not to say that that young lady was a teacher. So I'm sure she's never been in a situation where she's been shot at and a lot of things are moving around. And the last face that she remembers is the one that she picks out. And so that's questionable. And then do we necessarily want to send a man back to jail for 10 plus years, to take him away from his second son for 10 plus years off of a questionability? And again, that's not my choice. It's just something I want to bring the light to you all, and to show that even if you remove that to the side, like, this is like, it's a good man. Like, he has a history. Yes, he's done his time for that history. And this time when he was out, he was doing everything he could to stay out of trouble and to be profitable in this community. It wasn't that he was just working here, working there. Like, he started his own business. I just started my own business. And
You've done a very good job of eliminating.
I'm sorry. I'll say this. You're the second person who told me to be quiet today. So I'm just talkative today. I'm sorry. But yeah, that's all I had to say.
You made your point. Y'all, any questions?
I'd like to go into executive session.
I second.
Mandoo,
Yes.
Singleton,
Yes.
Tillis.
Yeah.
Okay, we're back in session now, and the time is 11:35. And we are prepared to vote at this time. Ms. Ledoux, would you like to cast your vote, please? Yes. And I appreciate Mr. Jones pointing out the level of that we have to reach in terms of what is acceptable evidence. I have watched the body cam. My vote today is to revoke you based on the evidence that I reviewed, that you were identified as a shooter in the situation. That's my vote. Okay, Mr. Tillis.
My vote today is do not revoke.
And my vote today is do not revoke. And I wish you well with the rest of your life. I'd like to say that.
Appreciate you guys.
And so, based upon 2 votes to not revoke and 1 to revoke, you have not been revoked today.
I appreciate you guys.
Thank you all. Appreciate you. All right, Alex.
Wow. I am actually shocked. The Louisiana Parole Revocation Board did not revoke. It seems that Miss Stapleton actually believed he was completely innocent with those words of "I wish you well." Miss Ledoux was not buying it. I would love to see the body cam footage. We don't have access to it. It's really actually quite interesting. This case, you can Google the shoot. It doesn't have much. I thought I would get more news articles, more meat. Apparently, shootings at these parades in New Orleans are so common that it's really just on the fringe, like local news channels with very little information. And look, I think the lawyer, although he did talk quite a lot, I was almost going to give him the cat treatment. But I just thought, I just didn't. I don't know. Maybe I should have. But he was talking and talking and talking, but he had a certain charisma to him, a certain sincerity, genuity, I think, which makes it not as bad. It didn't just sound like he wanted to hear the sound of his own voice, but like he actually really wanted to get his message across and cared about his client. That was my takeaway, at least. But he, this is, look, the attorney earned every single penny. It's interesting because what it's broken down to is there's a shooting where 9 people are shot. And most of them, I think, were innocent, I guess. Now, one person who shot is a convicted felon who is out on parole, because they had to say, okay, well, who are these people? And they arrested the 19-year-old for the shooting. So they had they had one shooter. Who was he shooting at? Who's he shooting at? We need to know who that was. They don't have clear, as you saw the little footage I played at the beginning, it's all blurry. You can't see anything. And then apparently, the body cam footage, but I guess where things start to feel suspicious is when you have a private vehicle take you to the ambulance, not take you to the hospital, not an ambulance. It's like, ooh, are you trying to hide something, right? And then there's conflicting messages where he's saying he's carried in. They're saying it looks like you're walking on your own, free will. And you start to put these things together, and it just doesn't look good. The circumstantial evidence doesn't look good. Then you have one person who says, hey, it was him, picked him out of 2 lineups, and then doesn't show up to court. They can't find him, they can't prosecute, they can't find her as a witness, which I think we can all assume why that might be. I mean, it could be she realizes, whoa, I got nothing in this for me for pointing a finger. I'm going to disappear. That could be very well what happened. I'm just making assumptions. As Dr. Grande says, I'm only speculating on a situation like this. And, it really does. We have seen parole revocation hearing where they just revoke with so much less of a smoking gun. But the attorney basically says, look, the police, the prosecutor, they just needed to point a finger. He's the only one that matched, but he didn't have a gun. Of course, he wasn't shooting back. We have one witness who, if you look at the language, what she says, it could look like him, which is the key word there. That is the key word there. It could be so manipulative, I guess, with these, where you see people getting. We covered one parole hearing where someone was found guilty. We went through the court documents. It was only on the 4th lineup that the person pointed the finger at them. They had 3 prior lineups with him in all lineups, and the victim said, nope, not him. They had another one, nope, not him. A week later, another one, nope, not him. The 4th one, oh yeah, it's him, and definitely sketchy, in my opinion. The way that they did it, and that he was like the only one that kept being shown up as the same one, and whatever. But they, the prosecution clearly knew that they didn't have a case. They didn't, but it's only been 3 months. They could, of course, always try him again if they get their witness back. It's a year's passed. There's nothing in it for the prosecution. I'm sure that they won't go after him. Do you think he's actually? I got to ask you, what do you think? I mean, is this straight up wrong place, wrong time? It just, what doesn't make sense to me is why not take the ambulance? Why take a private car? Now, what clearly could be is that taking a private car can sometimes be the better move. There's going to be a lot of ambulances coming, a lot of traffic, a lot of who knows how long you wait around. If you have somebody who's quick on their toes, I'm not waiting. We got to get you to the hospital. I mean, it doesn't always have to be suspicious, right? Oh, man, what is it? What is it? I'd love to know. What do you think? Look, he's not revoked, and hopefully, and I don't know what his original crime is. Let me see. I was looking through to see if we had his prior parole hearings, and before I forget, thank you to call him Annan. He's an Annan. He doesn't want to be announced, but he goes through Louisiana parole hearings, and he sees this Mandoo. This is a good one. He sends me the link, the timestamp, a short memo, so it's very helpful. Sir Richard and Lady Holly are out of commission, so normally I'd have them do research. This time I went through all my spreadsheets. Say, is he in there? Do we cover his parole hearing? Who is? But Alex Harris is a really popular name in Louisiana, so I don't even know what he was initially in for, But there you have it. Anyways, this was a surprise because it's Louisiana. It's kind of just been, you show up to a revocation hearing, and if there's any semblance of criminal activity, they will revoke you. But he got the lucky vote, and I hope, as Ms. Stapleton said, that he really does well in his life. 3 tractor trailers, that's something. I mean, God, that could be $1 million at least, right? To get that going. So hopefully he is successful. That could be a good business. And with that, I'll let you go.